Hello and welcome to the Questionable Album Club, the podcast where this beautiful panel of music fans we attempt to blow the dust off some of rock's curios, failures, and generally perceived missteps. We have a top 10 of this sort of thing. We mark everything out of 100, and every episode we just remind you of our top 10. Ross, you are going to read out the list today. Here is our top 10.
Good evening, everybody. Up a bit. There we go. Number 10, it's Magnificent Grinderman 2. At number 9, oh, God Save Us All, it's God Hates Us All, Slayer. Number 8, Van Halen 3. Number 7, Marillion Clutching at Straws. Number 6, it's the Rolling Stones and their Satanic Majesty's Request. Number 5, Captain Beefheart with Blue Jeans and Moonbeams. Number 4, Yes, with Drama. Number 3, The Doors and the Soft Parade. Number 2, God, it's the Happy Mondays and Yes Please. And still at number 1, in a Bryan Adams holding on, it's Rick Wakeman and the Six Wives of Henry VIII.
Thanks, Ross. Beautifully done. Ross, as well as Ross English on the panel today, we've got Steve Hackett. Hi, Steve.
Hi there.
We've got the other Steve, Steve Gibson. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
And we've got Marcus Kingwell. Hi, Marcus.
Hi, everyone.
Ross, it was your choice last time, and you chose a record that was inevitably going to end up on this podcast. Philosophy of the World, the first album by the Shaggs. I suppose I think about it. Was it released? It was released. It was made. There were copies made, produced in 1969. It's hard to sort of introduce them, really. It's a group from Massachusetts. Where's Massachusetts? Is it Massachusetts? No, it's where are they from? New England.
Yeah, New England, Foxborough.
Yeah,
and no, Fremont. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. And three girls. Well, the Wiggin sisters. There were three of them, joined by so Helen Wiggin played the drums, Betty Wiggin played the guitar, and Dorothy Wiggin wrote all the songs as well as played lead guitar and sang. Sometimes, occasionally, they were joined by their sister Rachel, who played bass. All of this overseen by their manager and father, Austin Wiggin. Ross, I don't want to say any more, really. I think do you want to just explain why you chose this?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it. I've known this album long time through reputation as being an album which tends to put people in one or two camps that is either unlistenable or it's a modern classic. But really until these weeks, I'd never sat down and listened to the whole thing. I'd heard bits and pieces, and it's been on my list for this pod for some time. But I was reluctant to choose it because, firstly, being essentially their only album, apart from outtakes, there's nothing to compare it to. And also because it's quite popular with some musos, I was worried I'd bring it up and everyone would go, oh yeah, our favourite album. And then just as it was my turn to choose, there's a podcast I listened to called The History of Rock Music in 100 Songs. It's by Andrew Hickey. It's a great podcast. And I subscribed to the Patreon. And just coincidentally, the one of the bonus episodes for subscribers was on the Shaggs. And it was the first time I'd really heard their story told in length. And the more I thought about it, the more it seemed like it was ideal for us. I mean, not only because it's a questionable album, but there's also real questions that it raises in terms of wide ones about what is music, and also about to what extent does the circumstances around the creation of a bit of music affect how you listen to it? Because this is effectively, you can make an argument that this album was brought out as a product of an abusive family relationship. And actually, does that really, when you're listening to it, knowing that, does that really affect how you view the art? So I thought, okay, let's do it. So that's why I chose it.
Absolutely, I think I think that's the key question, really. I mean, I was always aware of this as this kind of an album that Frank Zappa apparently was the first person who kind of discovered it, and apparently it was because Austin Wiggin, the father, had his mother made a prophecy. So, and one of the things in the prophecy were that your children, your daughters, are going to be famous pop stars, and so he made it happen. They didn't want it to happen. They didn't listen to music. There was no music in the household, and he forced them. He bought some second-hand musical instruments and forced them. Took them out of school, and made them. Didn't give them any reference points, and just made them. Locked them in. Essentially, locked them in. So I suppose the ultimate question with this record is kind of were the Shaggs kind of charming, endearing, innocent, amateur, outsider artists, or were you listening to the Fritzl album, but with kind of 50 years head start. Steve Gibson, as a Zappa fan, were you aware of it?
I'm going to talk about Frank Zappa for a couple of minutes.
Oh, good, yeah. Okay.
Uh,
That'll keep everyone listening. Steve, nice one. Thanks, mate.
well, next then.
Go on. Sorry, go on. Go on,
No,
please.
no, go next because no one else gets 5 minutes to talk about what they want on this podcast. So,
Mate,
well, it's fine.
I was kidding. Get on with it.
Um, well, I might ramble on. I just think because I'm sure you're doing your due diligence, and over the years, the first name after you read or hear the Shaggs is Frank Zappa, and I've been obsessed with Zappa's music for as long as I've loved music. So, this has come up, and what I don't understand is I think it's tied in with the Beatles because he famously said he'd rather listen to them than the Beatles, which I can massively agree with. But I think that must have been so hard. It's hard enough being a lover of music and not being a Beatles fan anyway, but doing it when the Beatles came out, being like that when the Beatles came out must have been it's uber hard. And you look at the list that it didn't just champion the Shaggs, Zappa championed, Varese, Ravel, Stravinsky, and two, the Dubliners. The list is and all of those people either crop up in live performances. He covers them, or or he famously had soirees once in a while at his place in LA, and the Dubliners did it. He had them there. But with the Shaggs, he never, even to the point where there's a massively obscure folk album by LL Lloyd and the other guy and it will come to me, but called Blows Boys Blow, which is old sea shanties. And him and Beefheart used to sit and listen to that back in the Lancaster days. How the fuck that album ended up there, God only knows. But we get on, can't do that on stage anymore, Volume 8 or something. They just suddenly go into Handsome Cabin Boy for they do the whole song instrumentally. There's loads of, but with the Shaggs, he just said that. He did go into, because he used to do the Uncle Frankie radio show where he'd kind of do guerrilla, he'd just turn up to universities, blag his way on to do a radio show. And he'd play the Shaggs a couple of times then and say, I'd rather listen to this than the Beatles. So my the reason why Zappa comes out, he sort of legitimizes it all a bit, really. I don't think he intended to, but I think that's because it's the next name you always hear after the Shaggs. Oh, Zappa liked him, so it must be good then. That's and I don't think that was it. I think it was a statement against the Beatles, and I think he was genuinely interested in take the humanity out of it. But it's quite an interesting experiment. Take the humanity out of it. What would people come up with in the Shaggs' situation? I know I'm sounding a bit like Stephen Burkoff as regarding a certain other famous international event in not in fairly recent history, but it's. I think that's where that's coming from, and I don't think it's. I don't like to hear it. Zappa's name. I don't think Zappa meant it to like everyone 40 years down the line to be like bang into the Shaggs. I think we'll have more of this. It goes on, but I thought one of the as well as the whole story is completely tragic and sad. It was quite sad seeing one of the sisters like kind of relatively recently with us pickup band sort of doing it, and all these people in the crowd sort of clapping as if it's the greatest thing, as if it's like is it like Vashti Bunyan or someone who's been recorded a great album and then it's come to light again. We must go and see it. I don't think it's that. So I just wanted to make that point about Frank Zappa, really.
But Steve, I completely understand what you're saying, but I think the thing is that he was the original key. Had it not been for Frank Zappa, probably nobody would have heard of these guys, and they probably would have just
Yeah,
completely
but
disappeared.
I think the way it's talked about is that he massively championed them, and I don't think he
Oh
did.
no, I did.
I think he just found
Well,
it interesting, and I think it was a revolt against the Beatles. But the whole Zappa Beatles thing is a brilliant, funny, enlightening story in itself for another time. But I think that's I just wanted to make that point. That's all because it kind of it's irked me all ever since I heard of the Shaggs, and it's over the last couple of weeks it's irked me even more. And at the end of the day, I can't sit here and talk about the other six Shaggs albums. That did I like them? Did I not like them? Did my uncle turn up with a tape of the Shaggs? When I was six, and suddenly that tweaked my interest. I can't do that. So
but
that's
there is one other way. It's funny. Ross said there's only this, but there isn't. They went back into the studio in
yeah,
1975
yeah.
and did and the drumming's in time, and it's almost sounds like a real band. Anyway, Marcus, thank you, Steve. Marcus, were you aware of the Shaggs before?
I no,
Oh, so
I had nothing. So this has been like an amazing revelation, really, the whole thing. And in fact, I had the joke was sort of played on me twice in a way because I looked them up on Spotify, obviously, and listened in as everybody did, and I saw the album art, and it had I think it was 2016 was the date that was put on it. For maybe that was when it was kind of published on
Uploaded.
Spotify. Well, this is what, and so I was thinking, oh my God, they've recreated a band with this sort of hit girl country look and these weird secondhand guitars in 2016. There's sort of this attention to detail. I thought it was some sort of pastiche that was dating from 50 years back, and then subsequently learned that that was the real deal, the cover art and the photos and everything. But no, it was completely new to me. It's been a I'm starting to go onto the content now. Is that all right? Are we doing
No,
more of a
please,
taste?
please, please, please do. But I'm really interested, in, apart from your fucking idiotic perception that you thought it was a kind of retro thing, it's obviously when you see old music uploaded, it has the date when it was uploaded. So
Well,
that's, you know.
there we go. Let's
Anyway,
just, I should know this by now,
so
Seb, really, shouldn't I?
when you
Having been
listen
on
to
this podcast, you think I would have learned a few things, but
so
so
Marcus, when you listen to it for the first time, what did you make of it?
I found it. Well, I would say congratulations to Ross on picking the most difficult listen of the Questionable Album Club by some margin. It actually beat me. I had to turn it off. I think I got probably 3 songs in and really had to turn it off. The second hardest was it was God Hates Us All, just for reference, and that comes as a metal fan. But yeah, this was I just thought was incredibly hard. I couldn't work out. I hadn't done any homework on them. I just went in and listened without any backstory, and just find it the discordance and the out of timeness and everything. I was trying to work out, am I the thick one here, or is it just a load of rubbish? But I did go back to it after a few days, and I had another listen today, and sort of got through everything. Now I understood a bit more of the story that was around it. It was a bit more manageable. But yeah, it kind of. I mean, all these questions come up, don't they? If just because somebody has created something, does that qualify as art? You know, anything that's through some kind of creative process, and does it have validity? But then I started thinking of we've got Nora the piano cat who's there on YouTube hitting the keys with her paws, or we've got the Thai Elephant Orchestra, which has released 3 CDs. So maybe there's validity in all this stuff. It's all in the eye of the beholder. I'm going to leave it there.
I think that's quite pertinent. I think the cat and the elephant have probably wanted to make those albums quite as much as these poor girls wanted to make the albums. Steve Hackett, were you aware of the Shaggs before you were forced to listen to them, to be filmed talking about them?
I was, but only, like Ross alluded to, is, it was on one of these lost curios lists that crop up every now and again, and I must have been bored one afternoon and was checking these things out. So I've definitely heard it before. You don't forget that in a hurry. There, really, I can't, without any other albums to go by, it's very hard to see, how it fits into the remit. Really, I mean, other than that, it's a divisive record. And
Steve, the whole thing is, I think it's one of those weird, because they didn't listen to music at home. Their dad wasn't into music. They had no idea of what was in the charts. It was simply, here's some instruments. There's no chord diagrams. It's just you're locked in a room with your siblings, and they had to practice for like hours and hours every day with no unless mechanics. Unless you've got any context, you can practice and practice and practice, but you're going to have any wider picture of what you should or shouldn't be doing.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an odd one. I didn't know anything about the story. I didn't know about the Zappa thing or anything like that. All I knew was that I'd heard it before, So that's sort of it for me. I managed to listen to it about 3 times, which one has to do with these things, and I'll say no more, really.
A mixture of coyness and. So Ross,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, apparently they were big Peter Noon fans. I've got the book "Songs in the Key of Z," which is about outside of music. Apparently, but Peter Noon and Elvis was what they liked. Apparently, you should remember the Peter Noon fan club. One of them. No, I was trying to, when I approached this. There's a story that when they sort of like they're having a bit of resurgence in the late night in the 90s because of Kurt Cobain's references and stuff, that 2 of them. Dot and Betty reformed and did a show, and they had a diametrical opposed experience of it. That I think it was Betty hated it because she thought that most of the audience there were basically there seeing them as amusement. Everyone was being very arch and isn't this so funny? Whereas Dot actually recognised that there was a lot of that going on, but because she wrote the songs, really appreciated the fact that there was now an audience that the songs were getting to, and that there were some people there who genuinely liked it. And so I was really trying to listen to this not being arch, and actually really sort of is this actually something I'm enjoying and something which has got artistic merit. And I think it really surprised me that I did like this. I did like this, and I think I was trying to work out why. And I think there is an innocence to it, which is an uncomfortable innocence because these are children essentially doing this and doing it against their will.
But they were in their late teens.
Oh, okay. But if you take any band, if we all got together and played this, we would be like 30 seconds in before someone says, "Come on, everyone, stop now. Let's get the guitars in tune. Let's come on, Steve, get up with the drums." But the fact to go into the studio and make an album, whether it be not realizing you're out of tune or knowing you're out of tune and just thinking that's what you are, and added with the sort of almost childlike lyrics in places, it had an almost enduring innocence to it, which I found quite endearing. That it's just, this is what we're doing and we're getting to the end. And then I was trying to work out, and I quite like the music in places, and can't work out if I liked it because of the discordant nature or despite it. And I think it's probably despite it. And I think that because I think you mentioned earlier that someone mentioned earlier that Dot Wiggins produced an album in 2016 under the moniker of the Dot Wiggins Band, which is like the Shaggs but in tune and in time. And I like that album. I think that's a good album. And so I think that there's something in the songwriting I like. And also, I'm a big fan of Jeffrey Lewis, and I think I can hear a lot of the Shaggs in Jeffrey Lewis in the way the lyric, the lyric and the vocals. So again, it's almost like the Shaggs, but in tune and on time. And so I think I like something about that songwriting, maybe not the discordant nature, because by the end of the album, it's not a long album. I start to have enough, and it's partly I think because the songs were all of a piece, but also I think the discordant nature. I think it's wearing me down by the end of the album. I couldn't turn around and put it back on. But I'm really surprised how much I'd actually like this in a lot of places, and so it's a sort of a qualified thumbs up for me.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Yeah. Steve, what do you make of the music? I presume you've been aware of this for a while.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it sounds like what it is to me. Just like it sounds exactly like as I would expect it to sound from the horrendous story. And it's not that, and it is, but there is an innocence to it, and I think if you put your kind of horror film hat on, you can, and you know the story, then it is creepy. But looking at it, it's, as I said earlier about where Zappa came from, I think is that take the humanity out of it. It is a fascinating experiment in sound. But I would, I don't like listening to it. I listened to it again for this, and I have exactly the same reaction as I did whenever I've heard it over the years. It sounds like a load of kids who can't play instruments coming up with their first song. And that's pretty much where I am with it. I personally, for split seconds, I can hear the sounds and not think about the humanity of it, but I think it's a really, really awful story. And I think almost there's as much to talk about the later stuff I was watching them, that when the sister was out with their pickup band and stuff. I just thought, God, that's again a two mind thing of like, well, I can't really blame her. And I watched the interview with her, sat in her kitchen, she's what, 60 or whatever now, sort of, and she seemed like a very nice lady. And it was quite interesting to speak to her, and the two youngsters who were interviewing her were speaking to her like some music legend, and she was just this sort of older middle-aged lady sitting in her kitchen who was talking about knitting, and didn't have a great deal to say about the music. Or when they asked about her childhood, it was just what you'd heard already, going, oh yeah, Dad made us practice. And there wasn't this, you didn't expect this sort of, it was so terrible, and you didn't get any of that. So it's very difficult. The more I'm speaking about it, the less I know really what I make of it. But we're here to talk about the music, I guess. And it's it for me it just sounds like what it is, a bunch of kids who can't play.
It's not music. You're hearing something. It's something strange that's happening in a room. You know what I mean? You're
I
hearing,
can see that. I can see that angle. Yeah, I can see that angle. Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and the. Tell you what though, I had bought the CD of this ages ago, and sort of put it on it, and enjoyed it in small doses for its quirky charm, its innocence, its weirdness. I didn't know the backstory then. The more you hear about the backstory, the worse it all becomes, and the more uncomfortable I think we all feel talking about it and judging it as music and thinking about it, and because these people didn't want to do this. I think the fascinating, the most damning thing that I think the reason that I find all this so hard to talk about, despite their kind of posthumous fame, there's a new documentary this year called "We Are the Shaggs," which is out in cinemas now and in festivals and stuff, and it'll be streaming later this year, so this is quite pertinent timing for us. But as soon as Austin died in 1975, they disbanded the next day. They literally stopped. The very next day, they just thought, right, thank God for that. We can just stop. He died of a heart attack at 47. 1975, just after they'd done their second record. The Shaggs' own thing. So I think the fact that, and then they just got married and had kids and just tried to forget all about it until they suddenly weren't allowed to forget about it at all. So yeah. Anyway, Marcus.
Well, there isn't a
Hang on, no, it's Hackett. Sorry, Hackett. Pardon me. Is it Marcus or Hackett? I can't remember.
Well,
Marcus.
I'll be brief and let Marcus speak about it. I mean, all of this is fascinating, and the backstory is very interesting. I think, but I can only judge it as a piece of music. I think at the end of the day, and in the absence of Simon tonight, I'll be Simon, and just it's a worthless piece of shit. It's absolutely unlistenable. It's terrible, and anyone who says it isn't is just being arch and a selection of these sort of 90s hipsters, like the Moldy Peaches, which I believe is a Jeffrey Lewis connection, who based their career on this album. They're just wrong. It's worthless. It's a terrible piece of music. Fascinating story. It's been really interesting to hear about it, but it's a music podcast and it's awful. There you go. Over to you, Marcus.
Well, I'm pretty much in the same camp. I think this is classic Emperor's New Clothes territory.
Yeah.
It's got nothing. It's got nothing there apart from this curiosity.
Marcus, you have to. Marcus and Steve, you have to. This is. I don't think you can judge this using normal criteria because they didn't want to make it. They were forced to make it. They didn't know what they were doing. It's not hip. It's not anything. It's some teenagers who were kind of locked in a room, locked in a studio, and they were forced to do it. And they hated it. Apparently, the engineer was like, the only thing I remember is they were just miserable. It was like they were made to do maths. It was like, we're not listening to kind of songs that these girls wrote. That hey, this will be great. We're not listening to fucking Girls Aloud. We're listening to these miserable, poor.
Yeah, but that's a sociology issue, isn't it? And this is a music thing. So I can only comment on the music. It's terrible.
I just feel I just have to kind of interject and say.
Yeah. I understand.
I mean, they're not the first pop stars to be under duress when they record their songs. There's a lot. Pop music's got a long history of corruption of young people. So I think that's something we've got here. It's kind of writ large, isn't it? Because of the weirdness around it, and because there was no talent to exploit in a sort of a normal sense. And you've got to look at the end product. I mean, this is revered in certain circles. Certain people do judge it for the output that it does and its naivety and all the rest of it. And I just think,
Marcus, I don't think it's revered. It's not musically revered. Some people. Well,
there's a cult following to it, and I think that's.
But that's for all sorts of reasons. It's no one listens to this and thinks, oh, this is great. This is really good. It's the whole.
If you watch the clips of them playing recently, that one of the sisters playing recently, and the people, the tragic hipsters in the room all sort of clapping and really getting into it. I bet if you asked them on that night if they listened to it, it would be never off the death deck, and they'd be oh, it's a clap.
This is my point. Some people flock to these things for the sake of being different, and they celebrate it, and they want to be. Show that they can understand something on a higher plane or understand some different level of meaning or whatever it is, then I think they're wrong. I just think this is weakest. I've enjoyed the digging around the story and hearing the weirdness, but it's a bit like true crime podcast, really. It's that sort of slightly sort of creepy fascination with something which is, odd and inappropriate. But in terms of, as I say, it beat me. This is the first one that's beaten me, and I'm not sure I've ever been. There's some albums which I've been beaten because I don't know, just don't like the genre or something. But actually, the jarring nature of the sounds were too intense. So I had to leave it.
Marcus, and you chose Mumford and Sons.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it's even a little notch up from that, But there we go. That's it. That's all I've got to say.
Before we go around and before we do sort of like scores and all that sort of thing, did anybody else listen to the second album, the Shaggs thing?
Yeah,
Of course you did, Ross. Well done, mate.
Yeah, that's just odd, isn't it? I mean, the father in Tony.
I think it's so much better because it's synchronized. The drummer, it's in time. They're singing. It's like and they redo. I mean, the most famous song we haven't talked about it at all, My Pal Foot Foot. They redo that as a kind of ambient, and it's in time. And there's this beautiful song called "Painful Memories," which apparently Betty wrote. It's the only song she wrote for them because she's the singer. She wrote it. She wrote all of it, and it's the only song she did, which is just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's so much better, and the naivety and the weird, innocent beauty. This kind of weird. It's just I don't know. It just works as a sort of tender, frail, wrong thing, but it works musically. There's something incredibly touching about it, much more than Philosophy of the World, which to me is just like, oh God,
Have you heard the Dot Wiggins band LP?
No, I haven't heard that. No,
it's
no.
very, very, very in a similar thing. But it's just her with musicians, and so it's tight. But her songwriting.
Okay, but I did see I think with what we're talking about is the people who've seen the festival show. It's 2017. It's that Wilco curated festival. And it's Dot and Betty guesting with a bunch of, and they do my Pal Foot Foot, and the drummer's doing that whole. It's so weird watching a drummer trying to do the kind of falling downstairs thing live at a festival. It's all just wrong. It's just like, oh my God, this is like. Anyway, Ross, do you want to sum up and favourite songs and all that sort of weird stuff?
Sure. I mean, I might have asked you to say before us to do that, but my favourite story of the recording of that is at one point where the engineer is sort of just looking at horror at what's going on, and the father is standing next to them, and suddenly midway through a song, the sisters just stop. And the engineer says, well, why did they stop? And his father looks round to them, like, curious of the question. He said, well, because they made a mistake. It's like... I like this a lot more than everyone else. I found it charming places. It was a difficult listen at all, but I was quite taken with it in places. I mean, admittedly, more than halfway through the album, I was ready for it to be over. So, for all its faults, I'm going to give it 60. And my favourite track is the title track, "Philosophy of the World," because I lyrically really like that. The fat people want what the skinny people got. The skinny people got what the fat people want, and ain't that the case?
Yeah, it does it all. I mean, that you can kind of I agree with you. It's everything from the Shaggs all in the first track. You don't need to listen to anymore ever. Anyway, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Uncle Frank. It's better than the Beatles. That doesn't push it up too far on my, and certainly, well, compared to Wings. Anyway.
Excuse me, you've read the
rules. Favorite songs, Halloween, but it's not really something I don't ever need to hear this again. Mark, I feel bad. I would musically, I'd give it 0, but for the whole story and what those girls went through, I don't think you can do that. So I'm going to give it 15.
Hackett.
Yeah, how do you judge? How do you score something like this? I mean, I'm going to give it 0. I can't really see. You can't judge it. It's like. I mean, am I being an idiot? Do you remember Daniel Johnston? Like it was another sort of Kurt Cobain thing. I mean, what are you actually judging here? you know, are you having sympathy for his
Well,
condition? Are you having sympathy for these girls' subjugation and the awful things that went through?
see if I can answer that. Does
Yeah.
it have an emotional effect on you? I don't. But Ross, you mentioned archness. I fucking despise archness in music.
Mm,
I hate even arch response. Either does it? How does it affect you emotionally? You know, and
mm,
sometimes you have no choice as to its emotional affectation.
mm.
But
Yeah.
does it affect you in any way at all? And I don't know, Ross. This does affect me emotionally. So then you have to. What does that mean and why and all this sort of stuff and all this weird thorny stuff we've been talking about? So I suppose that's what we're talking about, really. That's you
Yeah,
judge
no,
music.
I get that.
You've
I
got no
get that
choice.
entirely. But that's a hard thing to
Well,
score. I mean, I
you've
find
said
absolutely nothing redeeming about it, so I'm going to have to give it a 0. I'm sorry. Do
what's
I
your
have to
favourite
choose the best?
best song? Yeah.
Why do I feel?
Oh God. Okay. Oh, sorry. Why do I feel? Okay. Did you know? Did you have to check that, or did you have that written down somewhere?
No, I had it written down. I listened to it earlier on. It was I think it's absolutely terrible song, but I think it's the best of the 10. Sorry about that. Sorry, the Shaggs, if you're still around and listening to the podcast, which you inevitably are.
I love the
But yeah,
fact. I
it's
love the
poor.
fact you've chosen the 10th song of 12. So if you didn't just say the first one, whatever, you give it 0 and then say your favourite song is the 10th one. Brilliant. I love it. Marcus.
Yeah, I'm with Hacky here. It gets a 0 for me. It's my first 0 ever on this podcast.
Wow.
I've got to judge it
Mm,
on the
mm,
musical output, not on.
mm.
I'm not voting for the backstory. I'm giving a score for the music, so it gets nothing. But favorite song, I
Yeah.
was slightly tickled by was it my favorite Foot or something? What's
My my pal Foot.
my pal Foot?
It's
Yeah,
a
I'll do
cat.
that because I kind of like the I don't know, it's like a little bit funny the title, but it's not really for the music. It's just for the words.
But Marcus, you should listen. Honestly, you should listen to the remade version on their second album because it's kind of in time.
I'm
And everything.
really excited. I tell you, I can't wait for this pod to finish. So I want to jump on it, foaming at the mouth.
You and me both.
Right, it's me, isn't it? Don't know really. I still don't know. It's almost impossible. So I'm just going to give it. I'm going to give it the same as Ross, just because I sort of agree with Ross. And I'm also going to go for my pal Foot. So that's going to be the one on the. That's going to be the one that we're going to do. I'm just going to do the calculator stuff. So we've got 2 zeros, right? This isn't going to be this is officially going to be better than Mumford and Sons already.
With 2 zeros.
Exactly.
Not as popular as Nora the Piano Cat, though. I'll tell you that.
135 divided by 5, 27. I mean, it's not brilliant, is it? 27 out of 100. So 27 out of 100, that puts us, let me scroll down, 27 out of 100. just slightly better than Guns N' Roses' Chinese Democracy.
Oh,
I
well,
love
the
that.
chart
I
doesn't
love
lie,
that.
really. The
Yeah.
chart doesn't lie.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, literally, it's just below Primal Scream, Give Out But Don't Give Up, and just above 0.4% above Chinese Democracy. Feels about right.
Yeah.
It feels like it's rightful place,
Honesty.
doesn't it?
Natural
Yeah.
place, natural buoyancy.
Mm.
Right, moving swiftly on. We're just so because the person choosing our next record isn't on the panel today. It's Steenie, but he has given us his selection. So I will reveal to you all what the next album is. It's by Neil Young from 1983, his 13th. I love the fact in 1983 it was Neil Young. How many has he done now? Christ. So yeah, Neil Young's 13th studio album from 1983, and it's called Trans, and it's notorious for its use of a vocoder, which baffled many of his fans at the time, and it's the most questionable club album that Neil Young has done. It's
Yeah,
on
but
the
Neil
short.
Young, it could be a bit of a take your pick, really, isn't there? Some of them, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Rockabilly one and his
Well, the Rockabilly one, was that the one he was sued by his own record company?
yeah.
Music not representative of Neil Young. Yeah.
It's notes for you, yeah.
Yeah.
And all the other ones like that, Steve. Yeah, you're right. It's a good point. All the other ones that are, yeah. So, anyone
Box
got this?
set. Yeah.
Put your hand up if you own this album, Ross.
No, I don't own it.
You
Oh,
got it, Steve.
I have got it, yeah. I
okay.
love it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I do.
You can't be on next week then.
Exactly. I can't. I love it.
Right,
It's a
that's
work
it.
of
Thanks, everyone.
genius.
Is
So,
it is it between the Shaggs and Guns N' Roses in your rhythm?
that's it. Thanks, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you've got this far. Yeah, cheers. Thank you, Ross. Thanks for a great choice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve Hackett.
No problem.
Thank you, Steve Gibson.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. You're the first zero you've given us. That's amazing. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Goodbye from us all. Goodbye forever. The end.